and welcome to Gary's Scaries. I am Gary, and this is the final episode in our Childhood Home series, Part 1. Stick around till the end of this video so I can give you an update on Part 2. If you've missed any of them leading up to this one, I do recommend you go back and get caught up. All of those links are in the description below. And while you're there, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you won't fall behind in our next series. My spirit of choice tonight, while talking about spirits, is a Skittles shot. Cheers. When I was about 13, my mom and I were out yard sailing, which is something she liked to do practically every week. This one particular time, we came across a Ouija board. Now, I had no idea what the thing was. When we got home, we took it out of the box and we tried using it. It took a while for it to actually start moving, but once it did, I was addicted to the thing. I would bring the Ouija board out whenever I could, at family gatherings, friends coming over after school, at lunch. In fact, I have not touched the thing since I was probably 21, 22. When I sat down to use it by myself, that's when I felt it pulling out from underneath my fingers. It was starting to move on its own. I put it back in the box, and I haven't touched it since. Ever since day one of using that Ouija board, there were 3 spirits who always came through to talk to us. There was TG, Dubs, and Vicky. Dubs claimed to be a 9-year-old boy who had drowned. Vicky claimed that she was murdered by her boyfriend at some celebration she was having. And as for TG, when we asked him what that stood for, he said the grave, but he'd never been alive and he wasn't dead. Later on, I discovered that basically that is the definition of a demon. Now, you've probably heard of a similar demon called the Zozo demon, who seems to take over Ouija boards by going Z-O, Z-O, Z-O. Well, TG used to do the exact same thing. Before ever hearing about the Zozo demon, he would take over the board when you're in the middle of a conversation with another spirit. He would take over and start spelling out TG, 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 TG. And he would just keep it up until you gave up. One time, my cousin and I were using it, and my dad and his sister came into the room. They were very skeptical about the whole thing, so my dad said, "I don't want to touch the board, but I'll tell you the questions to ask, and we'll see if it gets it right." And he asked, "What was the very first car that I ever had?" And right away, it gave the answer. And I don't even remember what that answer was, but it was correct at the time. And my dad said, "Bullshit." So my aunt jumps in, thinking that my cousin or I knew the answer. She said, "Oh yeah, well, ask it who I caught him in the back seat of that car with." And when it actually spelled out the correct answer, she left the room so quick and said, "That's it, I'm done." I've been a bit confused lately because I remember specifically not wanting to bring that board with me in the car. I feared that I was going to have an accident or something, so I left it over at my childhood home. When I was moving from the last house I was in to the one I'm in now, I came across a Ouija board in our garage. We had no idea how it got there, and we swore we were not going to bring it to our new house. It went into the trash pile. Later, at our new house, I'm going through some stuff in the garage, and what do I come across but a Ouija board? Then, most recently, I was over at my childhood home when a niece of mine pointed over to the fireplace and said, "Gary, look." And there sat the Ouija board propped up against the rock wall there. After a while of always talking to these same 3 spirits, when they showed up in my bedroom one day, I knew exactly who they were. it immediately brought back the memories of what I was talking about in the last video about the witches and the army men who would come into my bedroom and surround my bed. There was a tall, faceless shadow figure whose silhouette looked as if he was wearing a tuxedo. I knew immediately that that one was TG. To his left was a shorter figure wrapped in a sheet who I assumed was Dubs. And to TG's right was a floating, glowing woman's head. And she had ribbons in her hair that were kind of moving as if they were in the wind, but there was no wind. This was Vicky. I believe that the three of them are still in that house somewhere. Because not once, not one single time did I ever say goodbye when I was done using the board. And that is something that is very important to do in order to close that door and keep all that stuff at bay. So, in part 2 of this series, when I'm over at the house, I'm going to bring that Ouija board out again. I'm going to try to contact TG, Dubs, and Vicky, and I'm going to close that door. So this next series, we're going to try a bunch of new things. We are going to try using a thermal camera. We are going to interview people who have had experiences in that house. And I think one of the best things that's going to happen is I'm going to try my hand at using the live broadcast through YouTube, and that way when I'm there by myself, I can have you with me and I won't feel so alone and freaked out. And then towards the end of this second series, I'm going to put together a team of investigators to do a proper paranormal investigation of the house. And please, subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, because I'm going to keep you updated on what's coming down the line for part 2 of this series. So, what's my plan between now and the start of series 2? Well, it's going to be a few weeks until I actually get over to the house to begin this series. So, I'm going to be posting a bunch of little stories, things that I wasn't able to fit into any of these episodes, but are still worth telling. And of course, anything new that happens, I will keep you informed on. And then we will pack our bags and we will head on over to my childhood home for part 2, my return. Until then, boom!